As was mentioned, my name is Mike McDonald. I'm a product manager on Firebase and Google Cloud Functions. I hail from San Francisco, though Brett and I have actually been kind of intersecting as we travel around the world. And as I've traveled, so I was in Copenhagen with Brett. I did not get a Little Mermaid photo, unfortunately. I went to Warsaw because we have a team there. I was in Tel Aviv for a conference. I spent the weekend in Hong Kong on my way here, and I'm here now. Turns out I speak English. I don't even speak New Zealand English. I was at dinner last night, and they asked me if I wanted an entree or a main, and I had no clue what the difference was. So I just ordered the pasta because it looked good. But that's a common thing that I run into, and maybe you all run into it as well. I travel around a lot, and I get by pointing at menus and hoping, like really, really hoping that they have pictures so that I can just point to the picture. But it would be awesome if I could actually speak and understand those various languages. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that I've noticed as I travel. If I can have even say hello or greet someone in their native language, it goes a long way. So this is something that people have been trying to solve for a long time. Has anyone read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? A couple people. So if you're familiar with that device called the Babelfish, so you put this thing in your ear and it auto-translates between languages. I think the first time I did this, it wasn't the first. I did a talk on stage right after the Pixel Buds came out. And the whole thing about the Pixel Buds, so they're like Google's smart earphones. You put them in your ear, and they had an auto-translate feature. So someone would speak in a language, you can tap them in a certain way, and they would auto-translate. And it's like, oh, why don't you just do that? And I'm like, well, I have 20 minutes on stage. We cannot build hardware. I was in hardware earlier, and it's all terrible. So as mentioned, science fiction has kind of solved this problem with the Babelfish. But I don't have a lot of time or a lot of money or a lot of R&D to build actual hardware. So we're going to use something that everyone has on them now. So we're going to just build an app that will do this live translation. So I'm going to be able to select the language that I want to listen and understand. And then I can hit the record button. I will upload some audio. And then magic will happen. And I will get a transcription. And it will speak out what I want to hear. I normally do this demo with a couple other people. And we will actually build 2 apps and a serverless backend. There's only one of me, so we're only going to build one app. But if you hadn't come to serverless or you're not super familiar with how serverless works, you might start building an app that looks like this. So you have your application, and it's going to talk to some compute. It could be EC2, which actually I really wanted to do this for the thing earlier of do 10 AWS services and their corresponding GCP services in 20 seconds. So EC2 and Google Compute Engine, so GCE would be the equivalent. But it could be other things, the platform as a service or containers as a service. But again, it's some compute that you're actively managing that's going to do auth proxying. It's going to do all of your interesting business logic. It's going to proxy out to the various backend services. So we have S3, and we have Google Cloud Storage would be the equivalent there of your object storage. It could talk to your databases, so Dynamo versus Datastore, for instance. See, we can do it. We can keep doing these. That's 3, yeah. I'll try and get all 10 by the end of this talk. Or AutoML, so I think recognition, is that the equivalent for visual? OK, cool. So 4, there we go. It would proxy out to those various services. But you're going to have to deal with a bunch of issues, like what happens when your app goes offline, right? If you want to ensure that, are there tunnels? Yeah, there are train tunnels here. So I used to commute from the East Bay in California over to San Francisco, and I would spend 4.5 minutes in a tunnel, and I knew exactly how long it was because I was without internet for 4.5 minutes. That's a really big problem, and you want to solve that kind of on the app side to ensure that that experience is really great. Otherwise, your users are going to be stuck in a tunnel for 4.5 minutes. So Firebase apps are serverless and handle a lot of that kind of technical complexity for you of plumbing in authentication, handling offline, and we actually allow you to connect directly to services rather than proxying through a server. So you don't have to stand up a server and scale that independently. We just say, hey, connect to this database, connect to this object storage solution. We'll plumb auth credentials in. We'll make sure that if you're offline, we store state on the client and can resynchronize that when you get across. For those of you, actually, we'll start it this way. How many people have heard of Firebase? Hopefully a lot of people. Perfect, then why am I talking? You all know everything. And actually, this slide has probably changed since I.O., because I don't think I've updated it. We now have ML-Kit for Firebase. But broadly speaking, Firebase is Google's mobile platform. So we offer services that help you develop your applications, understand where your kind of app performance is and ensure high app quality, and then understand what your users are doing and helping kind of engage with them. So everything from data storage, file storage, authentication, and crash reporting to analytics, deep linking, and auto ML magic with things like predictions. So we can actually look at your analytics data and say, hey, this user looks like they're about to leave your app, or this user is likely to convert. Send a push notification to them to do whatever. Pretty cool. For building this app, we'll talk about a couple of these features. And we'll talk about storage. So we need a way of, when you hit record and record your audio, storing that file somewhere. We need to do that securely, so we're going to integrate authentication. So we have Firebase authentication, which would be Cognito in the Amazon world, if you're familiar with that. And Cloud Firestore, which again, you can kind of think of it as a Dynamo competitor. It's a document-oriented database. We'll jump right in. So cloud storage, very, very simple. Obviously, you can select a file on your device. So Android, iOS, web, C++, and Unity. And we will upload that to the client. We do these via resumable uploads. So if you're stuck in a tunnel, and you have intermittent connectivity, we'll actually automatically resume or restart your uploads to ensure that your file gets uploaded. Also, just like S3, crazy high file size limits. So 5 terabyte files. I always say to people, I would love if someone could finally find a way to upload a 5 terabyte file off a mobile phone. And then I found a large customer who was complaining that 5 terabytes wasn't enough. It was not off a mobile phone, but I was very impressed. So if anyone has 5 terabyte files, let me know. I'd love to talk to you. And then again, very simply, we can also then directly download all of those files directly from the cloud. So again, you don't have to say, hey, I actually want to spin up a server to proxy those files. You don't even have to generate signed URLs. We can actually just stream things directly down from the client securely using Firebase Auth. So Firebase Auth is our serverless authentication solution. So it allows you to sign in using a bunch of common social providers, as well as kind of Firebase as an identity provider. So we can actually do your own email password user store, as well as a phone number auth solution. So you can sign in with your phone number, and we will send you a text message. It's pretty great. Additionally, we can federate across a bunch of different providers. So you can actually have users sign in via Facebook and via Google, and then link those. So a really common use case for this, which I actually really, really like, is anyone in e-commerce? So you have a shopping cart. So you want to, say, buy something online, but you don't want to require people to sign up for an account immediately. So we can actually sign people in anonymously. They can do whatever they want. We can track their entire shopping history associated with that anonymous account. And finally, when they get to their logout, you can say, hey, do you want to sign in with your account? And if they actually sign in, we can merge those two, and we'll keep the shopping cart tied to that one UID. And then you can just sign them out and keep all of that, or sign them in to their kind of known account rather than the anonymous account, and keep moving. OK, and then Cloud Firestore. So Firestore is a document-oriented database. So for this app, we're going to have 3 collections. So we're going to have an uploads collection. So we're going to upload our audio file into storage and store some metadata about that in the uploads collection. We'll have a transcriptions collection, which there will be some magic step between uploads and transcriptions that gets a transcribed version of the text. And then we will do another magic step that I'll show in the end on translating that text. Firestore is also really unique in that it synchronizes data in real time. So as you can see, you have a bunch of devices, and those devices will say, let me know anytime a document changes in a certain way. And you can actually subscribe, and we will push data out to all of those other devices. We'll see how that works in the demo. OK, so switching over to some code. It doesn't matter. Actually, I'll check quickly. How many people understand Swift? Or if you understand Swift, if you understand JavaScript, it's probably going to be good enough. I will try and make it as easy as possible. My background is iOS development, so I go a little with iOS. As you can see over here, it's kind of the app that we mentioned. You have a language picker. We have a record button. And we have the last thing that I did. I ran this in Tel Aviv and talked about shawarma. So we will change that once we get in. But you can see, I'll scroll down. It's about 300 lines of code is my entire application. And it's going to be entirely client-driven. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to pull in the Firebase services, whoopsies, not that, that we want to use. So we've actually already done via our dependency management to pull in the actual packages. But the 3 things that we care about, as I mentioned, are storage, auth, and Cloud Firestore. So we're just going to create references to those. The next thing that we're going to do is when someone clicks that record button, we're going to want to upload that file. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create references in storage and in Firestore. And a reference is basically just a pointer to a location in the cloud that we're going to send data to. We're also going to set some metadata about the files, because we're going to need that later. And this is kind of the coup de grace of the original demo, which is uploading a file is literally one line of code. It is saying, hey, we want to upload this file. Here is the exact native file type. Here's the metadata that we care about. And just put it there. I don't care how it happens, but just make it happen. And assuming it succeeds, we are going to want to write all of that metadata into Cloud Firestore. And so again, we just set some of that metadata, basically, type of the audio, et cetera. And then again, just like file upload, we just say set data, fire, and forget it. OK. So we've kind of handled that first part. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that it's secure. And for this, we actually have a really nice tool called Firebase UI. So this is kind of a headful view where you can actually, we will implement an entire auth login flow for you, complete with all of the, the sign-in providers. If you want to use our email password solution, we'll actually do password recovery, a bunch of that nice stuff. And it's super, super easy to do it. We basically say, hey, I want to use the auth UI. I want to say use Google. And then we create a view controller, which is basically just a new view in iOS, and present it. And so when I can click login on the app, you'll actually be able to see that. And I'll show you right when I'm done with this. OK. And the last thing that we need to do, so we've been able to securely upload a file. We now want to have the other half of that, which is when all of our magic steps have completed, we want to listen for changes on translations. So we'll actually get another reference. So earlier we had an uploads reference that we were writing to. Now we have a translations reference that we want to listen to. And what we'll do is we're going to say, on this translations ref, I'm going to do a query. And this query looks, we're basically going to say, in that data, or in each document, we have a timestamp. And I want to order them by timestamp, because I want the latest translation. I'm going to get the last one translation. And I want to be notified anytime a new translation is added. So that's what this add snapshot listener call is doing. And then I'm basically just going to pull apart that document and call this update and play method. And that's going to actually, assuming the audio is working, which it was when we were testing, it will play the text out loud. So I will run this. And just to prove that things log in and log out, I'm going to try and have to remember my password for this.
It's also really good.
There we go. And you can kind of hear it play around. So log in, we have this login flow. So again, I didn't write any actual code to implement that. I'll sign in with email and password. Let's see if that should be the right email address. You can see my incredibly secure password. Don't look.
The shawarma is also really good.
So you can see that nice login flow. If I wanted to select a different language, I could. OK, so let's switch back to the slides. And my thunder was stolen a little bit because I've actually already been running this in the background. But how do we fill in all of that magic nonsense in the middle that went from file uploaded to language coming out in the back? And the answer, as Brett alluded to, and as actually the last talk alluded to, throw some machine learning in there, right? Everyone loves machine learning. That seems like the answer to everything. But the question is, how and kind of where do you add that machine learning? And what machine learning do you use? So the machine learning that we're going to add is Google Cloud Platform offers two other APIs, the Cloud Speech API, which I guess would be Lex, and the Translation API, which I guess is Translate, based on so where are we, 6, 8? Dude, we're doing really well right now. Or we'll get at least 9. So Cloud Speech basically takes an audio file and produces transcribed text. Translation will take text and transform it to other text. So problem solved, right? We have a bunch of Firebase services and a bunch of cloud APIs. And the question is, how do we connect those things? So there are a bunch of challenges here, right? You have a bunch of security challenges. We could, if we wanted to, actually implement all of this on device if we really, really wanted to. But then someone could pull down our app or look at our website and basically get all of that magic secret sauce, right? Security is a huge problem. The other one, has anyone tried running ML on your phone? And have you held your phone? And have you realized that your battery runs out in like 20 minutes? So there are a lot of things that you actually do want to offload to a server, or some other background processing job that will kind of not only keep your code secure, but reduce overhead on user battery life. And then the other one is ML frameworks. We've tried to make them really nice across both platforms, especially on mobile, but it's not trivial to implement those. And so you might want to pull some of that logic up into some background process because you want kind of reproducibility across platforms. You only want to write that code once. So we could, if we really wanted to, go back to an old school world where we actually have some server, we'll say GKE or EKS if you want to, so that's 9. There we go, we're on there. We could have that listening to a database and actually running that, but that results in a world of servers. We're all at ServerlessConf. Let's add Cloud Functions, which is our Lambda competitor. Is that 10? 10, sweet. Cloud Functions, which will kind of, again, be an event-driven model. We can actually have events coming out from storage and Firestore that will say, hey, anytime a document is uploaded or a file is uploaded, let's trigger a function and call out to an API. So I will switch over to some Node code. Everyone hopefully knows Node because that's where everyone is starting from. And we're going to pull in a couple things. We have our Cloud Speech API, Cloud Translate API, and Cloud Firestore. And then I have some util functions. The first thing that we're going to do is you can actually, we're going to basically do a no CLI deployment for our functions. So Firebase offers this really nice kind of function signature. So we can say functions, Firestore, particular document. Whenever a document is created, give me a change notification of that document and the context object. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to extract the actual body of that data, get the language. So again, that was a document that we showed earlier. And then we're going to start setting up our request to the Translate API. And we'll call the Translate API. And it's just the recognize request. And that sends us the actual transcribed text. And we're going to write that to our transcripts collection and create a new document with the text and the source language. So that was kind of half of it. And you actually could, if you really wanted to, do all of those steps in one single function. But there are a couple reasons why you might not want to do that. I'm going to show, just for kind of, because it's cool, you can chain functions. But there could be things that are, for instance, like long-running operations that you want to farm out to another API, and you don't want to, the whole point of serverless is you only pay for what you use. And if your function is sitting there waiting for the response from another API, you don't want to pay for pretty much idle compute. So you could actually chain these functions together and offload, kind of that cost out to another API. So a great example would be video transcoding, which would be the Amazon Elastic Transcoder, which is a soon-to-be unannounced Google product. So keep your eyes out for a, I can't say what the name is because I don't know if it's been officially approved, but something that we're working on. But that's something that, again, you don't want to be running idle compute as this long job goes on. You want to farm that out to another API and have it come back. So we'll write the second function, which is going to listen to the transcripts collection. So here we wrote to the transcripts collection. We will now listen to that and again get change. And again, we'll pull in a bunch of information out of that document. We have our same list of languages that we want to translate to. And then we will write a bunch of massive, ugly, hideous JavaScript that I wrote. Basically, we just call out to the translation API for everything. We just can't translate our source language if it's the same as the language that we want to translate to. I am slightly disappointed. I really wanted to do this demo as an English to English to English to English translator. Turns out we don't have different variations of English, which I disagree with and have filed a bug about. But we'll have to settle for these languages. And deploying this is crazy easy. I will do it just for fun, even though I have it running. I'm going to only deploy the functions, but I will say Firebase deploy -- only functions. Oh, I'm not in the right directory. Where am I? We'll try this again. I need to go back into where my functions live. We'll run that again, and it will think for a minute. But basically, it's just going to go and in place update the functions. How am I doing on time? I think I have a couple more minutes. I'll pop over to the Firebase console. Can everyone see that? Sweet. So what we're looking at right here just making sure that it's refreshed, is the Cloud Firestore. And so we can actually see our 3 collections here. We can see a document. So for uploads, for instance, I have all the information on the metadata about a file. I can actually go into storage. So what that file is BE07. I can go into storage, and I can prove to you that we do, in fact, have files over here. If they're thinking, I guess my bucket is stored in the US, so things are going to be pretty slow. But I have a bunch of files in here. And then the fun part, we can go over to functions. We can see the functions that I have deployed. Again, blame conference Wi-Fi for slow things. You can see we have functions here. And the fun part is the logs. So I will actually run my demo, and we will be able to watch it real time in the logs. So while that's thinking, the weather outside is unfortunately not nice. I usually say something like the weather outside is really nice, but it was raining, so I guess I can't. You can actually see my logs from the other day. Hopefully that's large enough, yeah. So if we're lucky, where are we? Yeah, there we go. Oh. It'll start real-time streaming. And there we go. Function execution started. Oh, a bunch of connection errors. OK, it's going to retry, though. Give it a minute. Come on. Cold starts, man. I'm telling you. It was working just now. OK. Well, it's really nice because we can actually see that. I will pop over to the Cloud Console and show another really cool feature while it's thinking. So you can actually go. One of the cool things in my mind about Firebase and its relationship to GCP is Firebase is kind of like the mobile front end on top of Google Cloud Platform. And so you can actually, at any point, if you want, dive in directly to Google Cloud Platform. And you can see the exact same resources at kind of a different level of granularity. So I can go over to, for instance, we have a product called Stackdriver, which is kind of like logging, monitoring, debugging on things. And actually, nope, sorry, wrong one. Error reporting. So if you really want to see, I write a lot of really poor JavaScript, and it actually automatically picks up all the errors that I have from my bad deployments. So you can actually see, cannot read property language of undefined because I don't know how to JavaScript. And it will tell me all of the times when I did this. It will give me the logs. And great, I fixed this. It'll give me the exact stack trace. Great, I can acknowledge it. Yep, I resolved it. And I can go back and don't see it anymore. Let's see if this is, we'll just try it again. I really hope this demo works. We'll give it a second. And if people really want to have fun while this is still thinking, we'll actually just push forward with the demo. So on this, you'll notice there's a bit.ly link at the bottom of this, bit.ly/2IRON3H. If you want to open that, I've deployed a web app of this exact same app. So if everyone wants to get your phone out, open that link up. It will speak the last thing that it said, which is talking about shawarma. And if we're very lucky, the demo gods will be appeased, and you can actually hear whatever language you want to hear of what I just did. So we'll give people another minute. Hopefully we can appease the demo gods. Yeah, 2IRON3H. Or if you want, we can also just go directly to babel-fire.firebaseapp.com. There you go. So, yeah, someone selected not English. Thank you. Just to prove to you that it's not crazy. Okay. There you go. So I just got. Maybe I clearly have. I have errors. See, function returned undefined expected promise or value. So I clearly have broken something. So let's see if we can just go over. Yeah, exactly, right? Hooray for debugging things. But the nice thing is, when I was over in error reporting, this should, no, I guess it's not. Okay, maybe it takes a minute. Let's take a look at this. Will it actually give me the, we'll run it once more and just make sure. Let's try and appease the demo gods. And otherwise I'll try and, it's on transcript. What? Someone look at my JavaScript. Am I crazy? Oh, I think I need to, oh. There we go. I had to write that back to the database. Sorry. Let's rerun this. So I actually broke my demo. There we go. So we now have to go through that deployment process. This should be a little faster though. How am I on time? A couple more minutes? Cool. Okay. This is always the fun of live demos, I'm telling you. Yeah, so I needed it. That was why I was expecting a promise, because I did not give it a promise. So there we go. We're updating both of them. And if we twiddle our thumbs for a minute here and rerun it. There you go. So I actually could have, if I wanted to, only updated one of the functions, because transcript was broken, but upload wasn't. I could have selected functions : on transcript fs. Would have been a little nicer. Probably would have gone a little faster. But twiddle thumbs for a minute. I'll show one other thing, because monitoring is really hot right now. So Stackdriver is more than just debugging. It'll actually do debugging, error reporting. It'll do monitoring. So I have, I actually don't know if I have it for this one. Oh, cool, it's done. I will quickly do this. Let's see if the demo works now. So, I love whatever the last phrase is. So I'll pick a, I have a lot of projects, and so I have to find one that, there we go. I actually run a Minecraft server, and so I have instrumented it, and I actually get paged when my Minecraft server goes down. But you can do this on like your function invocations. You can do this on storage to see basically like, hey, I want to create a custom dashboard that will tell me everything I need to know about the entire system health. Oh, I guess I turned this server off. Whoa, that's awkward. I'll have to pick another one. We'll go to Friendly Picks. So Friendly Picks, we run an Instagram clone for testing. And so this actually uses Cloud Functions. So I can go to a dashboard, go to the production dashboard, and you can see I have a threshold limit set for 5 gigabytes of file storage, and I'm only at just under a gig. You can see bandwidth on all the different products. You can see database requests, storage requests, and apparently no one is using this because we're only deleting inactive accounts in functions, at least in the last hour. But for instance, if we look at the last week, we can see a lot more variation. We can see, hey, these are all the different functions that are running. I can also start getting errors, for instance, out of these, and I can set up alerts. So I actually set up a bunch of alerts here that say, for instance, like, anytime my storage is over quota, let me know. Or you can do things like velocity alerting. So anytime the amount of storage has doubled, let me know. And again, the whole thing of serverless is you don't have access to installing your own tools on these things, so we have to kind of pipe them up and aggregate them all for you. Let's go back to the demo and hope that it worked. Connection error, no. Though this, maybe, did that work? Am I crazy? We'll test it. Is it working? Demos are always fun. Okay, this is the last one. Otherwise, we'll cut it and have some time for questions. Function execution started. Let's see if it fails. Thinking. Yeah, okay, so one of them finished. There you go. Brett's phone works. So there we go. Yes. So I guess the audio wasn't working, but it is working now. So there we go. Okay. Switch back to the slides. So again, brief recap. We did not build 2 apps. We only built 1 app because there was only one of me. But we didn't spin up any servers to talk to those APIs. We went directly from the client up to managed services, connected them via events coming out of those services through Cloud Functions to the various APIs, chained them all together. There are a bunch of different services. I could name all of these and their corresponding features in Amazon, but I think we hit our quota. There are a bunch of really cool things, right? You can start wiring in AutoML, and again, really, really great serverless ecosystem of all those different tools. I clearly have not updated my slides. Thank you very much. If you want to reach out to me, I am on Twitter. Otherwise, yeah, there are probably plenty of ways. I'm on GitHub as well, but that's probably the best way to reach me. Thank you all very much. Any questions? Yes?
So if you want to query Firestore in real life,
Yes.
not just like pinning one thing, getting something
Yep.
up there, do you have to do a map produce on all those documents?
No, so Firestore supports a number of different queries. So the original Firebase product was very limited in terms of what it can query. You can create kind of arbitrary indexes and then do range queries on that, as well as kind of like you can chain those and do multiple ands. There are some, like we don't support OR queries today. We don't support full text searching. So for those things, you would have to farm it out somewhere else. But a lot of queries we do support.
How is that useful for users who don't want to wait for those queries? What business logic is dependent on those sorts of queries?
Do you have an example of something that?
Well, I just mean that, well, here's the problem that I see. That's great, and I actually would love for everything to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
It works totally from my mindset, but those cold starts make it terribly.
Yeah. For the functions part, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of like what Firestore is doing. So we actually will do queries client side, and we'll do latency compensation. So for instance, if you're building a chat app and you have a bunch of messages, you could run a query that say, give me all of my messages. So you have a bunch of documents where username is my username. And we'll actually run that query locally and give you results even if you're not online. And then as new things are added, we will then stream those over, and so you can start getting updates. So yeah, if your backend is not working well, or if you're in a tunnel, we can give you at least something before getting the full set. Is that kind of what you're going for? Or?
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a question about HIPAA compliance. I know pretty much every other cloud service is Firebase.
So Firebase depends on certain Google Cloud services that are, and I don't admit that I don't know the full one, but I think if you go to cloud.google.com/compliance, there will be a full list. So I would take a look at that. Yeah, I think that's the URL. But we have a whole list of things that we do and do not support. Yeah, I actually did a talk on this at Next, or not at Next, at I/O a month ago, and there's a full list there. I don't think Firebase services are, but I know a bunch of cloud services are. So I'd take a look at that. Yeah, good question. Yes.
The official documentation from Firebase mention about the full text to search by using an external service.
Yep. Yep.
Is there any plan on having this kind of feature by Firebase itself?
It is something that we're looking into, yes. So there's a kind of legacy thing called the App Engine Search API. It's funny, right? Google is a search company. Why do we not have a search API? We do have one. It's something that we're looking at how it would integrate. Turns out real-time, real-text search is hard. That's why companies like Algolia exist and only do that. Good question, though. Yes?
What do you guys think of progressive web apps?
Love them. So this website is powered by Firebase Hosting, which is our static asset hosting solution. And we're looking into, for instance, auto-generating a manifest JSON that would help you do that. So there are a bunch of people who work on this product who are super, super into it. Obviously, Chrome sits right next door to us in San Francisco, so we talk with them pretty routinely.
Because I guess this is still quite new, like for example, pop-ups and requests for like login.
Yeah. So a bunch of the products, so like storage, auth, Firestore, all have really good JavaScript support. And I think there was a talk done at I/O on PWAs. So I can show you that if you'd like. Yeah. Time for any more? No? We're done. Perfect. Thank you all very much.